Before we begin today's episode, we'd like to extend our gratitude to our sponsors at Avid for the incredible opportunity to raffle off a 1-year subscription to Media Composer as a thank you for watching. To enter, please visit postandblack.com/Avid and submit your information. The link will remain active for 1 week, and then the winner will be announced the next day via email and in an IG post on our social media. Thanks so much and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Post and Black, where we celebrate Black excellence behind the lens. We are thrilled to have you today on another episode. Thank you to our sponsors, Dolby, our title sponsor, and our supporting sponsor, Avid. We have a special guest in the building, Angela Latimer, editor. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good, yeah.
How can we get you to great?
I mean, I'm great.
There we go. See, that's all it was. Just a little, slight push. Now, we in the building. We're happy to have you. Been seeing you on social medias, and now we're here in the studio with you. It's great to have you.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, exciting. So you know the drill. Always before we start the episode, we got to dive in a little bit with an icebreaker. I might have had a hint to where you're from because of the area code, but the icebreaker today is, if you could be from any city but your own, where would you be from? And
that's a hard one.
Okay. You can go international. You can go same state. You can go, tell the people where you're from first off, and then we can go
Well, I'm from Chicago.
Okay,
So
Chi-town.
that's my hometown, and I love it. I'm somewhere in between New Orleans,
Okay.
because I love the food,
Yeah.
and the Caribbean, because I also love the food and the culture.
I like that.
That's a hard one, because Chicago's pretty hard to top.
You know, it's funny you said that. And when I was thinking about the icebreaker, I was like, all my friends from Chicago, one of my best friends from Chicago, I'm like, they probably would say, I'm from Chicago. And if I couldn't be from Chicago, I'd be from the city where the Bulls are from. I'd be from where the Bears play. So they would have Chicago 1, 2, 3, because y'all love your city.
We do. And, I was in elementary school when the Bulls was doing their three-peat, and it was a huge thing. And I just watched my dad and the rest of the neighborhood run into the streets of Chicago when Jordan,
Oh, yeah, he hit the shot.
At
He hit all
the
of them.
buzzer, yeah. And it was just such a huge thing, And I got to see him play when I was, in elementary school.
Nah, you default. Have to be. Now, South Side, West Side. Okay. Yeah, that's where most people come from. I had a friend, he actually was the only one I met in college that was from the West Side. And I was like, where is that? And he was like, man, I'm unique. I'm original. But South Side, y'all deep. And y'all strong in LA. How long have you been in LA?
About 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you brought about an Angelino almost.
Yeah, so my partner has Ram season tickets.
Okay.
And I finally, because the fans are so strong in LA. And so he finally was like, all right, you can't pull up to a Rams game in a Bears jersey.
No.
But I finally broke down and bought a Rams jersey.
Yeah. And
the second I took a picture, my brother texted me. He's like, I'm gonna let you know I'm taking your Chicago card. I'm taking it. And I was like, I have to have a happy household.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I've been going to some Rams games, whose house they got. It's real. It's a lot of fun. It's a good time. It's a good time. I love it. So you've been in LA a long time, and you came from Chicago. You work in post-production. That's what we're here to talk about. How did you get your start working in post?
I kind of always wanted to do something in the entertainment industry, but I wasn't sure how to get in because I didn't know many people. And, my parents and a lot of my siblings, they have very practical jobs. And so I remember when I was I took a intro to film class in high school, and I was like, okay, I think I want to go the film direction, but I still wasn't sure how to get in. Yeah. So I think I picked what I thought at the time was the most practical direction, was go into broadcast journalism. And so I went to Chicago State University is where I got, was where I went for undergrad. Yeah. And I quickly learned that it was okay, but I didn't love it. but in the program, I took a class. It was like intro to film and video. And that's when I like had like my first like experience with editing. And it was on Avid, and it was one of those things where I think that's when it clicked, when I sat down and I was like, okay, this is kind of tedious, but I can still be a part of telling a story, but not, I don't have to be the director, because I was also, I'm very like reserved, when you first meet me. And then if you talk to a lot of my friends, they're like, you have some dark humor and actually, but that's just who I am, and so I knew kind of right away, like directing's not really my thing, producing's not really my thing, and editing, I just felt kind of like at peace, and I still got to like be a part of telling a story and be still a department head, and just really like craft the story in editing. And I just took just a liking to that. So much so that when I was at Chicago State University, I was, it was so many people that did not enjoy editing, and they kind of just took it as like, a required course to graduate.
Yeah.
And I kind of made editing their projects a side hustle in school because nobody wanted to edit. Man. And so I got a lot of practice editing. And then, I also got like, because I was the only person that enjoyed editing, I got to use whatever new equipment was coming in. And, my editing professor at the time, she was like, well, somebody has to use it. So, no one ever stopped me. So I got a lot of practice that way. And then, I graduated, and my parents were like, well, what's next? How do you make money off of this?
Right.
And I did not know. I did a lot of like, I cut everything from like fashion shows, theatrical stage plays, music videos from independent artists. And I think at some point I was just kind of hitting a wall and just feeling like a little lost. Like I even tried to work, corporate for like my step grandfather. I tried to work at his company, and I just was in a place where I was like, this is great, thank you for hiring me, but my soul just felt crushed. And so I went back to my professor, shout out to Dr. List, Christine List at Chicago State University. And I was like, I think I want to move to LA, but I don't really know anyone like that out there like that. And like I had like probably a couple of friends that was also moving, and they ended up going to USC. And I was like, I know that I want to focus just on editing. I don't want to do anything else. And so she recommended Loyola Marymount and American Film Institute.
Yeah.
And I applied to American Film Institute and got in.
Wow.
Yeah, that program was, amazing. Taught me a lot about myself, culture shock. But I learned so much about crafting a story, and I learned a lot about the technical side of editing.
Yeah.
And I just, not to be long-winded, but I stayed out here and, kind of.
No, you're not long-winded. Like you're giving, you're giving a lot of insight and intro into how you got in the industry. And we always find it, interesting, and like how editors become editors, because sometimes our guests are like, this isn't what I wanted to do, but I kind of fell into it. And it's very clear that you knew, okay, I like being behind the scenes a little bit, and I know editing is what I want to do. And then the fact that nobody else could do it, so you got to practice with all the equipment and like just literally cut up, no pun intended, like cut up and do all these different variety of projects. It kind of gave you a skill set while you were learning and the ability to practice. What would you say was like the biggest thing that that you took from those early days that you still carry with you now? Because I'm jumping a little bit, but that there's a lot of practice that you had from the beginning. So is there something that stayed with you from those early days to now?
I think, I would say just not being afraid to try things and think outside the box.
Yeah.
Because you work on so many independent projects that, at least for myself, I worked on so many independent projects.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there was no budget to VFX something. So I had to just kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out how to tell this story without all the tools that I get when I am on a show that has a bigger budget,
right.
And And I definitely carry that on to like some of my other projects where you ask my assistant, I am very simple. Like I have a bunch of tools more tools now at my you say disposal.
Yeah.
But I'm still very simple and just in like the craft of like editing.
Yeah.
No,
I love that. And you tap into something that is something that is I want to ask, because we can jump there because you brought it up, but working on all of these independent projects and these student films and cutting these plays, and now we could put up all your credits, most recently Forever, a really top-notch show, just iconic LA story on Netflix that's coming back for season 2.
I know,
you
we're
feel
so
me?
excited.
And you worked on that, Grownish, The Old Guard, we can Bel-Air. We could talk about a lot of these different projects and the people that you've worked with and those budgets. How does it compare? And does it? Do you go in there, you're like a kid in the candy store, like, I have this, or I have this help, or I can be creative even more? Does it allow for more flexibility with what you can do?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like being a kid in the candy store. And sometimes, like I would say, like some of my earlier shows that I've worked on, it can be so overwhelming to the point where you're like, okay, well, where do I start? Because I have all these options and I have, all these tools and the budget,
Yeah.
And, sometimes I remember early on, it would be, okay, well, I have all this great material. Where do you start?
Yeah.
And then I would just kind of take it back to the basics. And then also remember, what it was like working with, I worked with Terry on The Old Guard. I was their second assistant, and just kind of remembering something that she had said to me, in that process, and what her process is like, you have to start, because you have like this, you get the footage and you have like an X number of days to get an editor's cut out. And sometimes, I could have like a huge basketball scene that I have to work on.
Yeah.
And, the important part is like, you get editor's block, and I'm just like, all right, I just have to start. And so one of the techniques that I will use to just go back to the basics is, okay, I'll read the script. Go, okay, what moment do I need to get to? And sometimes I'll just start, like if I can't figure out how to start, especially earlier on, I would just, okay, I know I need to get to this kiss. So how do I build out that moment to get to this kiss? And then I'll just work, backwards just to get something on the timeline. And
then you can kind of build it out from there.
There's
a question that comes to mind when it comes to like advice from your peers. You talk about Terry, Terrellin, Shropshire, obviously such the reason why we're even here opposed to Black. When it comes to like taking advice from your peers or wisdom from your peers, what do you like take and hold on to, and what do you kind of like let go of so that you can still have your own voice and be creative? Like, when do you find the balance of combining both?
Well, I feel like when I went to AFI, we had a lot of our peers critique the work that we do.
Okay.
Specifically when we show our final cut to the entire class back when I was there. And then when we did our editor's cut, we would show it to our entire editing class. And, you kind of, everybody would rip it apart and say, this is what works.
Wow.
This is what doesn't work. Sometimes they let the director sit in the cutting room. But what I took from that moment, and also from Terry, it all matters. Like, right? Like you take everyone's opinion with a grain of salt, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I never just throw away an idea that's given to me or an opinion that's given to me, because that just means that something, and it may not be exactly what they said, but something in this moment of the cut is not working for them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's not exactly the note that they gave, but it's the note behind the note. Why are you, what is making you bump on this? Why do you not feel this? Why are you not vibing,
Yeah.
And so that's what I take from my peers, because it's like, it's all important, especially if you get the note over and over and over again.
I was going to say that, because is it something like, it doesn't have to be a repeated note for you? Because I feel like, especially in TV and film, man, there's so many moments that stand out to each of us that hit differently. And so when somebody else is watching, it could stand out to them and it just be like a flyover for you. And then something else really catches some, and they're like, oh yeah, that was cool. So like, how do you know what the hang on? That really comes down to the director and then even higher ups maybe down the road?
Yeah, like sometimes like it can be a repeated note. Like if I get like a page of notes and everyone for this scene says, "Oh, okay, well, it's slow, we can pace this up, Now the idea that they have that could pace it up may not be the right direction, you know. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
But I still pay attention to that note.
Yeah.
And I'll still, try to make sure that I, do what I can to serve that note, because that just means that like something is bumping. And then sometimes, in my experience, I've had people give notes that no one has given before, and it is an eye opener. So it doesn't even have to be. It just depends on like, whether or not the note also is constructive. Because anyone can say like, "Oh, the music sucked."
Yeah.
Okay, but why?
Right. Yeah.
Why does it
Right.
suck? Because music is subjective. Art, it's all subjective. So why?
Right. I feel like you answered one of the questions in terms of like, was there ever a cut that wasn't working, and then how did you resolve that? You just kind of like go back and maybe read the notes and get there. I think one of the things I have about it now is like, when you have something, how do you go about pitching? This is why you wanted it to go to the team and why it should be this way. How do you find that voice for yourself in these rooms?
I mean, what I find, especially dealing with like executives that don't have a lot of time, is the best way that I can pitch an idea that I think works better is just visually presenting that idea.
Okay.
And we had a situation happen in Forever. It was like one of our like first scenes, and it was written completely different. And there was nothing wrong with the scene. Like, it could have worked, but it just wasn't the way that Mara and the other producers kind of wanted to open up, that particular episode. And so, Mara and I, we brainstormed, and there was this beautiful flashback like imagery that she really wanted to use. And so we had tried a version, and it worked. And we got notes from the producers, and they were kind of like, I mean, it's nice, but I don't know if it, is hitting the way that we need for it to hit, And I could tell that Mara really wanted to make it work. And I think at the point in time, some of the producers wanted to cut it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, it's not doing anything. Like, it's beautiful, but it's not moving the story forward. And so I had tried another version that she wanted me to try. I, worked on it in the evening. And then while I was working, another version clicked in my head, and I was like, oh, this could also work as well. And then when I met with Mara the next morning, she and one of our writers, Erica, they sat in the room, and I was screening the cut, and I had screened Mara's version. She was like, oh, yeah, I like it. I feel like there's still something, and this is her version that she pitched, and it was like, I like it. I think we're closer to like what my vision is, but I think it's still like missing something.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I know you don't have a lot of time, but I have another version. Can I show you that? And I think at the time she was like, oh, I love other versions. Because Mara is just so cool, to just sit in the cutting room with. And, I showed it to her, and the room just kind of went silent. And I was like, I wonder, do I still have a job? In my mind, that's what I was thinking. And then a couple of moments I hear, okay. Can you play that again? I was like, okay, sure. And she's like, I like that.
Hey.
I like that a lot. And then we tweaked a couple of shots and just changed the arrangement. And then that ended up being our opening.
Come on.
For the episode.
Come on. Which episode was that? You tell everybody
episode
if they
4,
don't know. Come on,
Forever.
talk about it. Come on, Forever. You feel me? I've never seen somebody flex without moving their arm. You said me and Mara was talking. You feel me? You just flex without even moving your arm. That's crazy. How you do that? That is so fire. You want them talking with Mara and obviously Gina. But when you're working on Forever, that's the most recent project. Do you know, like, when you get the call to work on this, that it potentially has, the ability to be what it became? Because, when I first watched the episode, I was watching it at night, and I was a little tired. I was like, wait. This is special. I'm going to pause it. and I'm gonna start fresh tomorrow. And I ended up watching it, and it was so incredible. Did you know from the beginning when you got that job, and how was it when you first got the call about it?
So I came onto the project a little bit later. So when
Okay.
I heard about it, when I first heard about it, I knew a lot of people were going up for the job because it was like kind of like the
Yeah.
hottest ticket
Right.
in town.
Right.
And I was on All American Homecoming, so I didn't even think about applying for it because I was like, well, I'm not off of this until May.
Yeah.
And then somewhere around like I got off All American Homecoming, I'd wrapped, and Bill, who's a VFX producer, who's
Yeah.
one of my
Bill
good
Hudson. Yeah, our
friends,
guy.
Bill Hudson,
Yeah.
let me know, hey, I think they need someone to come on to do episode 4. And I think you'd be a really good fit because you have experience with young adult content.
Yeah.
And, can I get your latest resume? And it also just so happened that I also work with Reggie Rock Bythewood, and all of them, they've known each other for years, and they, are very good friends. And so when I interviewed for it, I didn't even know that I would end up getting on that show. So it was crazy for me, and it's still kind of surreal and crazy. But, when I interviewed for it, Mara had let me know, like, yeah, Reggie also, gave you a great recommendation, and you've also worked with Terry, and I've worked with Terry. And so, I feel so blessed with the way that people that I've worked with have just kind of championed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
just been mentors. And I don't think that I would. Yes, am I talented? Yes. Do I believe I'm talented? Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like they have really just kind of just feels like put a big hug around me and just like, hey, we got you.
But it's needed, I think, in the industry that can be very, very, singular at times by yourself. You're walking and, you can see so much. Like I tell people all the time, we drive by the studios every day. Don't mean you can go on the lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's right in front of my face. I see Warner Brothers. I want to be there. But having that ability to kind of have people around you give you that. Can you talk about that as someone who wasn't from LA, but then came out here to kind of get mentorship? Did you have any mentors here already before you came, or was that through AFI? Was it through some of the jobs that you picked up along the way, classmates?
I had a few friends that went to USC, and they would kind of be like, oh, you got an AFI, but I would still go to all of their parties and stuff and hang out with a few people. And so some of them have helped me. And then obviously Denise Davis has recommended me because she was the year, her and Taylor Mason actually, as when I was coming in during my first year, they were graduating their second year. So we had crossed paths.
Yeah.
And then, my professor from Chicago State was also recommended me to go to AFI. And then as I kind of got into the industry, and a few classmates, I still keep in contact with a few classmates from AFI as well. But as I just kind of started working through assisting, it was really I got a lot of mentors through the editors that I was assisting. And I have to give a shout out to Mindy Elliott, who I met Terry through her.
Okay.
And I met her. I was a post PA on this show called Drop Dead Diva.
Yeah.
And I would just kind of sit in her room, and she showed me how to do script sync and kind of showed me the ropes of, how to, be an assistant editor.
Yeah.
And then when that wrapped, I had cut an indie feature that I got a recommendation through one of my AFI classmates. And so I cut an indie feature. And then after that, I was going to work at a promo house because I was just in a mindset when I left AFI, I don't know anybody out here.
Yeah.
I just got to work.
Got to get it.
You know? And so I was just in hustle mode. And they had offered me, it was a promo company that offered me a full-time position. And right when I was thinking about taking that job, Mindy called me and said, hey, I have a documentary that I'm working on called Plastic Ocean. And, I don't know what you're doing, but I would love for you to come on to assist me. So I assisted her.
Wow.
And then I got my union days,
Yeah.
through that documentary and working on an indie feature. And then when we wrapped, she was going on to an Alexander Payne film, and she's like, "Hey, we need a second assistant editor. Do you want to come with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, of
right,
course,
right. Please take me with you."
of course,
Right. Yeah.
And then on that film, I have to also shout out Kevin Tent, who's just an amazing editor, because I've learned so many things about, editing. And then I got to see him and Alexander Payne work together. And that kind of hit for me like, okay, I can do this. I'm not far off. This is and it was like a Paramount feature. And so this was like my first big union gig. And I'm watching, this like team that have been working together for years, and just how they like, I guess what's the word I'm looking for, how they run a cutting room. And it's everything it was everything that I was taught at AFI, how a cutting room should be. And you want to find your director when they're like up and coming, and then they take you, with them. And
it's really no, it's real. It's real. You see it a lot from afar. You're like, and growing up, I think outside of the industry, but always wanting to work in it, I was like, wow, it feels like they always work together. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Denzel and Spike, Scorsese, Leonardo, and I didn't know the business behind it, but then I started paying attention to credits when I'm getting older, and I'm like, wait, Denzel was a producer on that film? I thought he was just the actor. And so you're looking at, and then when you go back and look at the editors, the people in post, it is a team, because obviously, for one, you understand the collaborative effort. Two, it's business and money, and it's involved. And if you did it right the first time, if it's not broke, not fix it. But there's a trust, there's a vision, a communicative a thing there. That sounds like it's like a project that pushed your career forward in a way, because it's like, oh, I got on this one, then I got on that, and then you're watching and learning, growing. Maybe in the future, wanting to build your own team. You know what that looks like. As an editor, as someone in post, are there any new trends? Things have changed over the years, when it's before COVID, from when you first started working from home, now maybe back in office. Are there any things that you're noticing that have changed for you as an editor? Maybe some systems. I know you used Avid. Anything that you're using more of, or that's somebody who wants to get into it, they're like, oh, I can get ahead of the game now.
Yeah, I mean, like, for more of my like scripted projects, I use Avid mostly, but for some of my, independent projects that I'll sometimes take on when I'm in between gigs, in between shows, I find myself diving a lot into Premiere.
Okay.
Sometimes DaVinci.
Wow.
If I just need to do something quick
What's
and
the
dirty.
benefits? It's a little bit, would you say, more accessible than that? Or how do you feel like?
If I don't have my own assistant editor, I'll say for DaVinci, if I don't have my own assistant editor, it's, I have to tap into assisting myself. And so it kind of cuts out, just, I prefer Avid all day. Yeah. But it just cuts out kind of like this middle of, I got to make, proxies and then go back to, the original.
I got you. Yeah. We're going to cut out that little "I prefer Avid" all day and just keep playing that for the rest of the year. Nah, it's like sponsored by Avid. You feel me? It's love. But that makes sense though, and just in terms of like the workload, and then obviously you get used to having somebody assist, and then you got to go back to doing it yourself. So you're like, okay, what can I get done more efficiently? Time is obviously most important. When you think of a scene for yourself, editing for TV and then editing for film, what's like your workflow, or is it the same for both? Because obviously it almost felt like Forever was a movie, the way it's shot and the way it's done. But obviously some of the other shows that you worked on, maybe a little faster pace. So what is like your workflow like for TV and film?
Well, I'll say like with film, I may rely on script sync a little more because there's time.
Yeah.
There's time for my assistant editor to do it.
Yeah.
For television, shout out to Perry Pang, by the way, who was my assistant editor on Forever and All American Homecoming. But with television, sometimes the workflow is so fast, there's not enough time. And so I prefer, my assistant to spend that time on like, sound work, helping me kind of, like I do a lot of my own cut, but like helping me like craft the story.
Yeah.
I'm also big into mentorship. And so while I would love to use Script Sync, sometimes the schedule is so demanding, and sometimes, Perry will have, a lot of things on his plate, and I just, I remember what it was like for me when I was assistant editor and just wanting to be in the room and learn. And so I prefer, even though that's important too, but I prefer you to be in the room to learn, because what's really helpful for me as an editor by having my assistant editor in the room is that, let's say Mara is giving a note or Reggie's giving a note, we can speak the same. Like he or she, they'll already get, like, understand like where we're going, So I don't have to, hey, 1 second, let me go tell them to go do this. It's like, Perry's already on it.
Secondhand. They're hearing it
we have
like
a secondhand like language, and that's really important,
That is real. That was something I was going to ask, like, are there any terms that you may know that people outside of the room or of industry in general may not even know that they should start picking up on? It's like there should almost be like a post editing book of words that you're saying in the room so that people can just pick up on it and get there. Or is it sometimes like you just got to be there to know?
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day. That's real. That's
Depends on
real.
the day. Like, I think one of the things, when I used to assist Terry, I kind of got like the nickname from Terry and Gina, Quiet Storm. Because I was always just kind of, they were like, oh, you're just so peaceful, and it, could be chaos happening. But, I'll be fair, I feel like I have a cheat sheet because I come from a family of like, I have a large family. I have 9 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So it was always chaotic in my household.
Always something going on.
There's always something going on.
For sure.
And I'm like the third oldest. So it's like, it was always a fire to put out. So, shout out to mom and dad. I think that definitely helped me learn how to contain my composure in chaotic situations.
I feel that. We're not going to keep you all day, but that's a real strength. And that is something that actually, I think, benefits a lot of people. When you said peace, I get that vibe in the studio. I know people are getting that vibe when they're watching and listening, because you're working on these projects for a long time for some people that are required to deliver high quality projects. It may get a little hectic. You may have to have a quick turnaround or have a change there. We don't want to see somebody that's cracking under pressure. Acknowledge when stuff is going on, but we don't want to see like, oh my God, it's like, oh no. Can we steady the ship? Are we okay? That's great. What do you have coming up next that we can stay tapped in on? I know you mentioned a couple of projects, but you've been working. Are you still doing anything independently, or is there anything that we can mention?
Right now, I'm waiting for season 2. Forever to come back. But I mean, just working on like some personal projects right now, and this time off, enjoying my summer. Recently got engaged, so I'm planning.
Come on, we got to say that again. Recently, show the ring for the people. You feel me?
I recently got engaged, so
yes,
I'm planning a destination wedding. So that's a lot on my plate, but
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. We in the same family. I'm not from Chicago, but we in the engaged family. You know what I'm saying? Because same thing happened just recently, so it's a beautiful thing. Congratulations to you and my guy. I know him very well, so just very happy for you both. And obviously, what you're doing professionally. Where can our audience keep in tap with you? Like, stay connected. If there's any questions, additionally, you on the socials?
I am on the socials. So, if professionally, I don't post a lot, but when I do post my projects, I post them to my Instagram, Angela Latimer.
Yeah.
And then if you want to see my travel stuff, me and AJ have like our own separate page where we post all of our
Amen.
couple stuff. It's called A&A Adventures.
Come on.
So it's something that we're just playing around with.
Hey, that's fine. Usually when people say they're playing around with it, it's official. So we about to check it out. Angela, it has been a pleasure having you here.
Me.
And no, it's exciting, and you gave a lot of wisdom, a lot of insight. And I know there's more that we could talk about too, but we're gonna save that for when you get back on season 2 forever. And there's more shows, but continue doing the work, continue being a mentor to the people, sharing advice, and we can't wait to have you back again. So thanks again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Post and Black. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Share this with your network, your friends, your family, so that we can continue to make this project grow. Until next time, we'll see you. Stay black.